Sign-in sheets down here.
We thought the sound would work better.
Nobody else in his house.
Sounds good.
So yeah, house call. He said he was just staying in the house. Nobody else could see.
West Virginia was doing that.
Okay, let's get started, please. Call this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order. There's some packets up here for the Budget and Finance Committee members. These are the items on the budget that we'll be going over tomorrow night in our first budget hearing. What I'd like to do with that is to try to get the minor, I hate to use that term, some of the elected officials out of the way, that their budgets are not much change to them. We'll be looking at the clerk, register, trustee, property assessor, the circuit court, clerk and master, possibly the library, senior citizen center, and the highway department. We'll be dealing with those tomorrow night if we get that far. We'll also have for you tomorrow night the estimate of what opinions revenue would bring in, which looks like it's going to be about the same, a little more in the urban services than we had last year. So the preliminaries that I've seen, Mayor and I and Amy went over this for several hours today. Looks like we're going to be in real good shape going into the budget season. But want to go ahead and get started with it tomorrow night. We'll get some of the ones that doesn't take a long time. Then next week, on Tuesday night, we'll meet again unless we're under some sort of quarantine situation, and we'll tackle some of the bigger budgets like the Sheriff's Department, emergency services, and things like that. Try to have a little bit more time on those more complicated. 6 o'clock.
What do you think tomorrow night?
6 o'clock. I think we can probably get through most of these within an hour. If we need to go a little bit longer, we will. I hope that we can be done in an hour, hour and a half, something like that, depending on what we get into. But I want you to have these. They're fresh off the press. They may still be a little smudgy, I don't know. But take those, look them over. If you have any questions, you have your actual 2018-19, what we budgeted and what we're estimating that we're going to spend this year, based on what's already been spent and our best estimates of what's yet to come, and then what's proposed by the various different departments going into this. So if you have any questions about those, give me a call tomorrow, send me an email, get in touch with the mayor or Amy. We'll be glad to try to answer as many questions as we can before we get into that tomorrow night. Trying to get out in front of this, we don't want to drag this budget process out any more than it needs to be, but we want to make sure that our budget is as mean and clean and lean as we can make it, and then we'll take a look at the overall effect of everything. So that's what we're going to deal with tomorrow. Tonight, first, you have your minutes on the back of from the previous meeting. Have a chance to look those over. Do we have any additions or corrections or deletions or on minutes?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Harsh and a second by Commissioner Ford. Seeing no corrections, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. We don't have a lot to go over tonight. You should have received copies of the County Trustees report that shows our trial balance with the ending balances in all of our monetary accounts. It is still holding very strong. And if you look at our outstanding liabilities, there's nothing there that jumps out. There again, we're holding pretty steady at where we should be at this point in time. Any questions about it? That's the first page. It looks like this one. Get on over into the general fund on our revenues. Of course, the end of February is when most all of your property tax will be paid by then. Without anybody goes beyond that, it has to start paying a penalty. So we're right on line with that. We're at a little over 100% on our property tax collections of where we were expecting to be for the year to date. And you go down through that, there's not a lot of, there's some categories because of when they come in, it's a little wonky, I guess you'd say. That's an accounting term. But if you look at the bottom line, and that's what we typically are most interested in, at this point in time, we should have 8 months into our budget year collected 66.67% of our revenues. Right now, we're standing at 78% of our revenues. And so in that respect, revenues have come in stronger than what were budgeted and anticipated. If you go on down into page 3 and page 4 on the expenditure side, the real good news is that you're looking at 47% expenditures. Now there are a few big things that will be coming in the months ahead. The streetscapes and what was the landfill? Did we pay this?
Landfill's 116.
Yeah, okay, this is 116. Anything to note there that?
We paid anything on the closing of the dump yet? We haven't had to rework.
Which generally closing.
Have we paid anything yet out on the landfill that we're closing as far as those funds? Have we paid anything on it yet?
According to this, if you look in the 116, it says expenditures, it's 55,770. Post-closure care cost, that is the landfill. It's 383,510.85 we paid out to date, so that's 55.61%.
So part of it has been, at least what we budgeted, and that pretty much, yes, that's in 116.
Now we have not, the reimbursement on that's been a little bit slower. There was some changeover in the grant department at the state, so that's put us behind a little bit, but We have received the invoices, and we are paying it back. It's just the receiving of the reimbursements has been a little bit slower than we anticipated beforehand. Like I said, there's been changeover staff at the state.
We should receive back, what, 320,000 from them?
Up to $322,216 if it takes that amount. If it comes in lower than that, it'll be half of whatever the final amount is.
I think we're gonna come out way better than we ever thought in the beginning that we were gonna be on that. So we're excited about that. You go over the 118 ambulance service fund, there again, revenues are ahead of expenditures. CCA on page 8 is there again, just pass through. County drug fund is restricted funds. A lot of that will be spent at the end of the year. On page 10, your highway fund. There again, the revenues are coming in ahead of budget and the expenditures are way below budget. We'll have, I'd say, Mr. Scruggs will be doing a lot of work once spring breaks, so probably have a few more expenditures toward the end of the year than you have right at this point in time. Debt service, there again, it's right on track, right where it needs to be. You look at the education debt service, wheel tax revenues have come in a little bit slower than anticipated, but looking back historically, you look back through that, and there's a lot of new cars that are purchased in the springtime, and a lot of the tag renewals come in the months of May and June. So I think that's going to be fine when we get to the end of the year, but it looks a little skewed right there. And I think that's why. And there again, that's our best, on the revenue side, it's our best estimate of what it's going to be. And it's certainly, all of this is your best shot at it. But I saw nothing that was alarming in any way. If you have any questions about any part of that, certainly now's the time to ask them. Went through it pretty good, and it's looking good.
The cash balance is currently $646,000. Their fund balance, I can't remember off the top of my head. They've got some restricted funds. They have some restricted funds, so I don't know what the actual fund balance is.
And they got some savings too.
But it's more, there again, their expenses and expenditures have been way lower than what the revenues were above what was anticipated. So they're in good shape. Any questions? Okay. We'll move along into budget amendments we have for the end of this month. We only have two, and they're both interfund transfers. First, trying to find it here. See on the back of your agenda package for the commission. The first one is BA 101, emergency performance management grant. This was a public safety grant that we're receiving for $5,000 for EMA, and want to put it into equipment line item where this will be going. With the money in, the money allocated. Any questions about that? Mayor, did I explain that good enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next one is your 141 General Purpose School Fund. This has to do with incentive program for the teachers, fixed bonuses and charges allocated to that. I believe, Clint, you're here.
Yes,
If anyone have any questions on that, there again, it's moving the money from one place to where it's being spent.
of course, we approve both of them.
Have a motion to approve both of these transfers. Any other questions? Any other considerations on this? Have a second by Mr. Gregory. Motion by Mr. Ford, second by Mr. Gregory to approve both of these, recommend these be approved to the full commission. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then we have that done. I think that concludes everything. We talked about the budget a little bit beforehand. We got a few minutes, so if somebody has specific questions about that, I tried to go over how we're going to try to proceed with it. The school budget, we will have it before May 1st.
Yes.
And sooner rather than later. And I think we still are waiting on a couple of the departments that are dragging their feet just a little bit, but we've got enough for us to go ahead and get started on things tomorrow night. And hopefully by next week, we'll have everything that can get you a little bit more accurate, harder figures on where we're going to be overall. But overall, I think we're going to be looking real good. I think we're actually looking at less budgeted dollars than we did last year. So I think we're going to be in real good shape going into this budget season. We did move a few. Urban Services has looked at the urban services side of the budget pretty extensively, and there was two line items that we felt like needed to be borne by the whole county and not just by the Urban Services District. So we moved those out of Urban Services, which will help a little bit with that tax rate and shouldn't impact the overall tax rate anywhere near as much as it's going to help on Urban Services. So with that, with the growth that we've had, and hopefully with the growth that we're seeing with sales tax revenue, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape this year on the revenue side. Yes.
How did the tax sale go?
How did the tax sale go? Who wants to answer that, Mayor or Mr. Bell?
Either one.
Well,
That's a good question.
Mr. Butler only has a little bit more hard numbers than I did. I believe, and I don't have the notepad I had when I talked to Ms. Jones, I believe it came in around 102,000 total. Now there will be some fees and things that have to come out of that, but it was 102,000, and we did have at least one piece of property that I know that the county ended up with, and beyond that, I don't know if there was any other ones. So.
We had 6 parcels, we had to pull 3 out of them because it's just some issues, so, but we'll get those back. We had good sales, there were a lot of people showed up. The quick match to the bid out, and of course the one down by the bridge is the one that's now the owners of that piece of property. So. But it went away quickly. So we'll probably get those done every kind of leaves. And the land in the shoes, I would say probably 4 times. That's good.
And I will also add that 102,000 figure did include some people who came and paid off what was due on their properties and redeemed it before we went to the tax sale.
Yes.
We can go ahead and move.
Don't know yet, that's like an action out. Later, so we do actual searches beforehand, and, about this this question of time, we'll pull it, till we get straightened out, and then,
How far did that bill up there? What a year behind,
you'd asked me a week ago, I told you, we're still probably pretty good, but we're catching up, so we are catching up, so.
that's good.
We've made a lot of progress a little bit. We've had some good sales last year, this year was really good sales.
It's on tax rate right there.
A little bit, just talk about the coronavirus situation. I know that I had several of you contact me whether we were going to continue with our meetings, our committee meetings and things. At this time, I feel like we should go on. If we have an outbreak in our county here, or we have cases that we know of here, certainly that is subject to change and would change. We do know that schools have closed and the rest of this week and next week you were going to be spring break. So that right now, that's as far out as you're planning to be, that you know
The
of.
governor's guidance that came out today asked schools to be closed through March the 31st.
Okay.
And they would issue new guidance somewhere around March the 30th.
Okay. I do know that we made the decision to close the Senior Citizen Center and the library as well. You know, certainly if any of you are sick, stay home. And if you're in a compromised situation with your health, stay home. Don't feel like you need to be here. I mean, there's enough of us that we can go ahead. And like I say, if it gets bad, then we'll change that. But right now, once we get through next Tuesday, we really don't have a lot of meetings scheduled for the next couple of weeks after that. So that's a lot of my thinking, is we can get some of our business out of the way before, if it's going to get bad, before it gets a chance to get bad. So that's kind of our reasoning. We've been in a lot of meetings with state officials and conference calls. I've got saw one last week with the White House and Homeland Security. Got one scheduled for this Wednesday at noon with them. They're giving us a weekly update for the elected officials to let us know how it's progressing and what we need to do. So I think you can share that with your constituents, that, you know, we're not just sticking our head in the sand, that we're monitoring this situation as best as it can be. And hopefully this will get better and not get far worse, I guess is the best way to put it. But, you know, your thoughts. Do you think that's a prudent way for us to proceed, or do you think we should just shut it all down and go home? I mean, I don't want to impose my will and then somebody gets sick and it's all my fault, but for the number of people that we have in these meetings like this is a big crowd tonight. You know, we're not, other than our commission meeting next Monday night, we're not going to have, I wouldn't think, a great number of people that would be assembling. So that's kind of our thoughts on that, and certainly love to hear from you if you have thoughts on it. Have anything else? Mayor, do you have anything else?
I'll go into a little bit more detail on the coronavirus, but I was going to make it part of the mayor's report at the work session.
Okay. Yes, Peter.
Make a motion to adjourn Budget and Finance Committee.
We have a motion to adjourn the Budget and Finance Committee. All in favor, please say aye. Thank you very much. Let's take about a 30-minute break and we'll
I did, I slipped in behind you. I thought at first, I looked at my time, I thought it was work session at 6, instead of 7. I usually come in and listen to budget finance. I thought I really messed up.